what we're going to do is approximately 10 minutes each. We're going to get our presentations, and we're going to start with Jack Mikowski, who is currently he's marketing segment manager at Conservis, and he'll explain what they do. We will also have Brian Watkins from CropZilla. Brian is a farmer, and he's also CEO of CropZilla Decision Support Software. We have Andy McGarry. He's from DeWitt, Iowa. He's Director of Customer Support for Granular. And Eric Nakaville, who's Regional Sales Manager for Maximus and Technologies. And then Doug Applegate, who's one of who's the founder of Praxidyn, and he'll explain what he does. So we'll give you guys 10 minutes. I stand up this time. You get into the next Okay.
All right, thanks, Norm. Appreciate you being here, having us here again this year. I'm here to tell you we got it all figured out. Been working at it since 2009, so obviously we got lots of work ahead of us here, but made a long way. So a lot of what we talked about today is I wanted to kind of give you kind of our view of the integration landscape, as we call it, but kind of stepping back from that, kind of looking at all the ag tech type of solutions. If you want to kind of look at the evolution of where ag tech has been, where we think it's going to, and hopefully we can have a dialogue around that. Kind of an eye chart here. This is one operations view of all the things that you folks have probably seen over the years, continue to see. Some exist, some of them don't exist. Some folks have come to market, some folks have gone out of the market. So lots of confusion, right? So lots of things you have to test on your own or get some input on to help try to make some sense out of all this. So let's turn to a famous philosopher, Yogi Berra, for some inspiration here, right? So he kind of, I believe this is how he said it. He's basically said, this feels like deja vu all over again, right? I mean, leave it to Yogi Berra. But, you know, when you really think about it, a number of us, and I know in our company, myself included, I didn't kind of grow up in ag. Actually, most of my time I spent in the printing and publishing industry. And like a lot of other manufacturing industries, they've gone through a lot of the same kind of adoption of technology over time. So there's a lot of predictable kind of things that happen. They don't necessarily happen in a linear fashion. It's an iterative process, but nonetheless, hopefully I've got the key points here, I think, what we've seen and where we think it's going. So point solutions, number one. So, you know, individual apps that have been assembled, again, solving some very specific challenges, very specific issues, but not necessarily ones that will communicate with each other, right? So they're all kind of disconnected. Basically, they're creating lots of information, in some cases very valuable information for solving that specific issue, but they're not necessarily helping each other out in that respect. So they create these data silos. So that's left up to you to try to figure it all out, right? Either you put it into a spreadsheet, maybe you pull it into your accounting system. There's ways of being able to kind of quantify the impact of those individual apps on your operation. So along comes, again, this is an iterative process, platforms like Conservis and like Granular coming along in order to help you in that process. So creating a platform that you can then tie those apps into and tying things into. So that's really why Conservis was created, and companies like that created, was to be able to take that information that now is sitting out in data silos, bring it to a single platform. But not only is it a technical solution, we realized that in order to help folks along the way, it's got to be kind of a change management for I call it data management partner kind of a solution. So to the degree we had a discussion around lunchtime today around, is there a single system out there? Somebody asked, is there a single system out there that's got accounting embedded in it, has all the production management, farm management systems all in one? And we said no, and probably thank God, but probably because nobody could run it. It would be kind of applying SAP to agriculture. If you know anything about SAP, it usually buries the companies that are trying to implement it. So we intentionally, when we came to market, we said, listen, we're going to build the best darn farm management system in the market. And folks like their accounting systems. They like their FBS systems. So why not try to make it seamless to be able to communicate with those systems? So, so in the process, what should happen, part of this, again, evolution, is now taking that information, we refer to it kind of operating systems, kind of the platform being your operating system, and making sure along the way that you stop creating duplicate entries along the way. So everything makes sense along the way, and you work really, really hard in that process. Okay, so so this is kind of look at 4 main pillars, I guess, what I refer to as kind of your ecosystem. We talked a lot about this here today in lots of different terminology. Basically, you have your production part of your business, you got your revenue part of your business, you got to deal with growth and compliance parts of your business, and you have to deal with the yield part of your business. Those are all very key things that you have to live and work through every day. So Conservis, again, created back in 2009 and continue to develop out to be able to bring you the tools to be able to pull all this information together. And specifically what we do, if you come in, we'll spend some time around the round tables and so forth, but starting from planning and budgeting, you can create a plan based upon activity-based plan that can roll into a budget, which you can then create work orders from, you can then create activity tickets against, and that can flow all the way through all into a single platform. You want to identify what you're buying, how you're inventorying those inputs and so forth, and then eventually what they get applied out to the field, recording the production tickets, and then eventually you got a crop that's got to be harvested, recording all those things off the field, and eventually settle those out. So that's real high level what we do. So what does this all mean? Again, back to that whole first slide around looking at all this world that you're in. So having a platform is one thing, but building relationships with key players in the industry, that takes time. We've been working at this for quite some time, and this is a kind of a sampling of the different relationships Conservis has developed over the years. Specifically, we'll get into some of the integration things we did here. I'll kind of highlight, all the way back in 2010 time frame, the very first integration we did with Digistar, with their grain cart scales. So what growers were telling us was, my highest pain, my highest risk area is harvest. Help me figure out harvest. So we integrated with their grain cart scales, eventually integrated with their truck scales, eventually integrated with their Dickie Johns, eventually integrated with the elevators, and that's all part of the harvest solution. We then obviously started working with Norm and FBS early on. I've got a slide on that in the 2012 time frame. We'll give you a little more detail about that. So now the new things that we're working on, we just made announcements first off with the John Deere Operations Center pulling tickets in directly, production tickets there. Come this fall, we'll be pulling data directly from their combines also to kind of auto-reconcile those against the grain cart tickets. And also we announced a integration with CDMS, which is a chemical database system, which helps you standardize your data, and I'll take you through that in a little more detail. And also we started working also with Climate on their FieldView system, so that now you'll be able to, if FieldView monitors anywhere on any piece of equipment, you'll be able to then pull that information directly into Conservis and make sense of it. And if you want to go into FBS, share that with FBS, that's available also. So let's drill down what we've done with Norm and team over the past 5-6 years. We started sharing data all the way back, I think, about 2012 time frame. Norm had experience, obviously, on the pork side of the business here to be able to actually have the ability within their platform to actually start ingesting records. So that's how we started. Any kind of integration, typically it's a crawl, walk, run situation. Our crawl was to be able to, or if you call kind of walk, was to be able to create export records that could be ingestible by FBS customers. So getting that right is important, obviously. It's making sure as you go along that anything you're sharing is going to have meaning, it's going to be consistent wherever the destination is. So over time, we've now built out, we made the official announcement in January of this year. Lots of effort, about a year and a half, 2 years worth of work with Martin and team and Norm and his team to build out a real-time API integration with the FBS system. So what that means is that if you go into Conservis and you change a specific field, let's say you add an input, you change an input, we immediately send a record. We immediately send a record of that to our API or message, and then within FBS they get pulled down and it gets integrated. So it remains synced up between your production system and your accounting system. So at the end of the day, should eliminate duplicate entry. You'll have everything to be synced up, and then you've got massive amount of reporting on our side. Obviously, massive amount of reporting on FBS side to be able to make sense of that all. John Deere Operations Center, we now have that operational, and that you can pull records from John Deere Operations Center. Same type of thing. You want to pull those in and share those all the way through our system and down to FBS. That's now available also. And then Climate Field View, not available yet, but this is something we're working on. We'll be releasing later this year to do this, essentially the same thing there. And last but not least, because I'm getting the hook already, I want to deal with it. Is CDMS. You've heard of CDMS, Chemical Database Management System. Basically standardized data to be able to pull that through the system. Okay? And this just says that, this is our legal disclaimer to say there's some stuff we have available today and some stuff we'll have available in the future, and I think I gave you a highlight of what they were.
Okay, thank you, Jack, and we'll turn things over to Brian Watkins.
That's it. Okay. Thanks, Norm. Thanks for inviting me out. I was out here a couple years ago, more as an observer and user. We were just getting started with CropZilla. But as I mentioned earlier this morning when I was talking about myself, I've farmed for the last 30 years. I'm a 6th generation. We've got the 7th generation involved now near Kenton, Ohio. And this is kind of the, why did I start this software company? And that's what I'm going to kind of explain a little bit about and give an overview of what we do. So this is the first pickup truck that I ever bought. It was a 78 Dodge Power Wagon, and it cost me about $7,000 by that pickup truck. And I got that actually when I was a senior in high school and would run around in that. That was a great thing. There was, of course, lots of, it gets into the reasons of why we buy what we buy, right? Because ultimately, CropZilla is about why we buy the equipment we buy, right? And obviously, we want it all to be a good investment, but there are other reasons why we buy things, right? And as a high school kid, I had more reasons than just the fact that I was going to be pulling wagons around for my dad on the farm. But and this then is the first actual piece of farm equipment I bought. When I graduated from college and went back to the farm, the very first thing that went on my depreciation schedule, my own tax return, was this computer. The reason I put it up here is it cost me about what that pickup truck cost. That was about $6,500 for that. That's a Victor 9000, an IBM clone type computer and floppy disks and all that stuff. And of course, the first thing I did was I put our farm records, the accounts on the computer, and that was my job early. That was kind of one of the ways I grew into the farm, was doing that. If that kind of relationship had stayed, our smartphones would cost us about $50,000 right now, right? So it's a good thing that, that's why we're here today, because technology has advanced. But that was my background. And then, of course, started farming with my brother. We grew our farm a lot over the course of the last 30 years or so. And the big thing was, as you're going to farm, you constantly got these capital investment decisions. You're adding acres. Now you need more equipment, maybe you need more people, and then on top of that, not just because of growth, but I think in our term, in our history, we've done full tillage, we've done conservation tillage, we've done ridge tillage, we've done strip tillage, we've had lots of system changes, right? We've changed the way we handle weeds, we've certainly changed the way we handle nitrogen, and all of those decisions that we would have lots of ideas about and talk to each other about they required capital investment, they required changes in our operating expenses, they required changes in our schedule and our capacity to get the work done, and so I was looking for a way to pull all of that together into a model that I could plug in changes and see the effect. And of course I had spreadsheets, I learned how to do spreadsheets when I was in college. We had the program called VisiCalc, which, so we've been doing that forever, and I thought I was pretty good with spreadsheets, but at some point you run out you just run out of capacity or time to program, right? And so the other thing is that as we get up into now and a little bit more recently, I went back and got an MBA, and one of the things that I realized, we had a lot of accountants, we had a lot of finance guys in the MBA class, and of course, well, believe me, in this room, accounting, I mean, there were accountants who ended up, running the company, CEOs. Accounting is a great path. But what I also realized was it was the finance guys that had the higher salary within the corporate world in terms of the numbers guys. And the reason was because the finance guys, their job was not just to look in the rear view, but to look into the future, right? And to take whatever they had and project it forward, okay? And so, of course, you can't do that if you don't have a great set of books. You can't even think about it. But once you've got a great set of books, now how do I translate it into the future, and how do I evaluate what my opportunities are in terms of return on investment and return on capital? So what we've done with CropZilla is we've tried to combine this sort of idea of operations model with also some basic capital budgeting ideas where we're really trying to drive return on assets. When we think about that equipment purchase, okay, it has to get the work done. We have to be able to get the work done in the amount of time, but we also need to drive return. We need to make sure that it's a profitable move, and that, yes, as I said, there may be other reasons why we want to have a certain set of equipment, but ultimately it's got to pay. And so we think about tools for capital budgeting, things like doing a net present value, discounting future cash flows, and looking at the flow of income that's going to come from this asset, and what's that worth today, and being able to use that to judge relative terms or relative decisions. But of course, you can't do that unless it's absolutely impossible to use capital budgeting if you don't have the dollar records, right? Unless you have the ability to create a cash flow, because that's what you're doing. You're evaluating a cash flow. The end point at which you say I'm going to discount it over time, well, that's fancy math, but that's the easy part. The hard part is getting the budget right, getting the numbers right. And so again, you've got to have a great set of books to begin with, and then you've got to be able to point that into the future in a way. And that's what CropZilla is. CropZilla is a financial model. It's a production model of a grain farm where we're modeling capacity and so forth. So let me jump to that. What we really wanted to do with CropZilla was create essentially a digital farm, right? Kind of a video game idea. We haven't put it into a video game yet. It's still just a financial software. But the point is, we wanted to capture, I apologize, you're not going to be able to see everything up there, but we wanted to capture the capacity of every machine. We wanted to know basically every hour of every machine in every field, so that we could assign costs that way, but then we could also understand how long it took to do the work, right? So some of the basics are just the capacity of each machine, the sequence of events, what might be limiting factors, the labor we have to operate, how many hours per day can we operate each machine, and then we kind of line it up and we find out which, what is the limiter. So for example, we may have tons of spraying capacity, but if we only have so much planting capacity, then we're not, that's going to limit the speed at which we get done. And also, if we have maybe a massive machine, but only one person on the farm that can run it, that's also going to limit how much work you're going to get done with that. So it's those kind of things that we're capturing. You're not going to be able to see these numbers. Tomorrow, I've got an extended session where we're going to get in deeper into the numbers and ask you to come to that. But let me just say what it is showing up there is that we drive on the equipment, we drive to cost per acre. So we are talking about these costs per acre of equipment. Well, for every pass in the field, we're driving it to a cost per acre, which includes the equipment cost itself, both from a standpoint of the capital invested and depreciation. We have repairs, we have fuel, we have labor. And we drive that, so for every operation on your farm, and actually every field, will have a cost per acre. And it is different for almost every field, depending upon the size and shape of the field. We also model travel time, we model fill time, we model all of the logistics of bringing product to the field and how long that takes at harvest. We model the capacity of the combine, whether you have a grain cart or not, how many trucks you have, how far you are to the unload, how quick the unload is. We again line that up for capacity and bottlenecks and so forth. So that's what we do. Then ultimately it's a scenario tool. It is a tool where we capture the way the farm is now. We want to get that down, what you've got right now. And then if you plug in an extra 500 acres, or you plug in a larger planter, or you plug in another person, or you're bringing someone in, then you see the effect of that in terms of cost and time. One last thing is, let me jump here to the idea of then capturing that. So we build this off of a model, okay? But we're working with a couple of companies, none of which are OEM people, but we add on basically an under the hood GPS tracker, where then all these things I'm talking about we model, we're capturing that, right? And so then we're flowing that data into CropZilla. And that is, how much time is the equipment actually spending in the field? How much time is it sitting idle, either filling or something else going on? How much time is travel? And none of the as-applied data that we get from monitors right now will give you that. You have to have some kind of a separate tracking device to get that today. And so that's why we're working with those. And ultimately, again, that rolls up into cost per acre. So that's CropZilla. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. A couple of companies we work with. We work Farm Mobile. If you heard of Farm Mobile, yeah, we put their device. We get data from them. And there's a company called Tierra, which is a Topcon. They're based actually in Italy. They've got it under the hood. Every piece of equipment has these devices on it, but the data flow on the equipment operations is separate from the data flow of the model. Even in John Deere, those are two different data flows. And you can't get enough of that data to do the analysis that we do right now.
Okay, the next is Andy Gary.
All right, guys. Yeah, Brian. My name's Andy McGarry. I'm the Director of Customer Support for Granular, based out of DeWitt, Iowa, here, about 20 miles north. I'm actually subbing in for our sales rep today, so if this isn't as polished as a sales rep, I apologize. But just kind of going to give you a rundown. A lot of this will be kind of a repeat from what Jack said, so bear with me. Granular, so I'm going to kind of call out the elephant in the room right away. If you guys have been following any of the ag tech news, is that about a month ago we announced a partnership with John Deere, which basically what that means is that we're going to have a little bit deeper integration into the operations center. A term you guys have probably heard about 100 times a day. But what that's going to do is put in some profit maps, things like that, into the operations center. We're still working on that collaboration, but we announced that. So that was pretty big news for us, about a month ago. And then the bigger news that came out about 2 weeks ago was this acquisition by DuPont Pioneer, which is really more of a merger because Granular is going to basically be the digital arm for Pioneer moving forward. Okay? So yeah, here's a couple of explanations into that. So what's going to happen is that the Encirca product that was mentioned earlier today, that nitrogen model is kind of their big thing, that's going to fall under the umbrella for Granular. And then our CEO, Sid Gorham, is going to be the head of that digital arm. So that's kind of the elephant in the room, and we can talk about that more as we break out. Here's a little background on our company today. We're headquartered out of San Francisco, California. That's where basically our engineering team is. But we have support teams all across the country. We also have a satellite office in Champaign, Illinois. We've got a lot of leaders in the industry that really helped us get off the ground. We started towards the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. I've been here about 3 years. I was here for our first harvesting, which was a really cool experience. I was with a developer that was coding as we were driving down the road to our first customer visit. So we're pretty new to the game, but with the buyout from DuPont, really what that means is that you see the 75 employees up there. By the end of the year, we're supposed to have 100 developers on team. So it's kind of just changed our complete outlook. Is that we went from the startup world to corporate world pretty much overnight. So right now, today, we have customers in 36 U.S. states. The acreage, of a customer is just completely varied. So, like, we have customers that have 2,000 acres, and we have a customer in Australia that signed on about a month ago that has 200,000 acres. So, Granular can be, exactly kind of what Jack was saying, is that it's that one space where all that data can flow, and you can manage it and run your team. So, the different crop types, we built it for row crops to begin with, and now we moved into permanent crops. To kind of capture the California market. The owner age is an interesting one because, as Jeannie was saying this morning, a lot of people sign on to Granular to kind of get their data into one spot. But another thing, as I'm training new customers, it's also about succession planning. As the new kids are coming back from college and they're coming back to the farm and they're looking to take over the farm and they see all of Dad's old records, in shoeboxes or whatnot, they figure out there's got to be a better way. So then they start investigating, and they come across Granular. So field teams can vary from 2 guys to 65 guys, and really it's the last bullet is exactly what I've been hearing all day long. It's the progressive technology and data-driven mindset are the people that really grasp Granular and run with it. So what we do, so we have 2 products today. One is Granular Ag is the farm business management tool, and we also have another tool which is free. You can go there right now and create a login. It's called acrevalue.com, where you can go in and see prices of what different crop lands have gone for. You can see the owner of that crop land. It's a pretty cool tool. It's free. We have a pro version if you want to sign up for that as well. So really what our main focus is really helping farmers with these top 3 goals, which is to be more efficient, more profitable, and then to possibly grow their operation. So I'll dive into these a little bit further on how this works. So plan and manage. So the first thing that we do, we got to get you set up. You mentioned that this morning. That's the key. You got to get all your inputs in there, all your crops in there, all of your people, all your users, equipment. So once that's in there, then you can start building your crop plans, and then also at that same time you're building a budget for your farm, right? So then as you get your plans built and you take things to the field, you're basically creating tasks in these plans, and then as you take it to the field, you're creating work orders. That you can see that little icon up there. We have a mobile device that you can use, or we also have machine data where we can pull it in from John Deere, Ag Leader, Case, whatever it might be, we can pull in all that data as well. So you can see at the bottom part, we're going to help out with the operations aspect, financials, inputs, crops, and then eventually reports at the end of the day. So this is just an example of what kind of a task looks like in Granular. It's kind of tough to see, it's a little blurry, but this has machine data integration pulled onto it. So there's, like I said, there's 2 ways of doing this. So a lot of people use their work orders, the mobile device, to be a management tool. I'll tell you a quick story about this. So another thing, kind of circling back to Jeannie about scheduling meetings for your team. We had a customer come on, and every day they'd have a meeting at 7 a.m. and everybody had their notebook. Well, the operations manager was telling who to go where during that meeting, so it took however long it takes, half an hour. Well, with Granular, I'd say take 15 minutes, schedule out your work orders for the day, and then instead of telling everyone where to go for that day, they've already got it lined up on their mobile device, right? So, she said everyone would put their mobile app or put their cell phones down during that meeting, or I would say bring them out. let's look at them, make sure everybody knows where they're going. So this is exactly what that looks like. So as the work orders get sent out, there's like a list over here. So say I'm the operator. Here's my work order, my task list for the day. I've got 3 things to do. I got to go harvest these 3 fields. So then the second screenshot where it's blue at the bottom where it says start work order. So as soon as he gets to the field, he just hits start work order, right? Puts his phone down and he goes and does his job, right? Because we don't want software to get in the way of work. Then as he gets done, he just hits complete and he can enter any data off of the monitor into the mobile app. Again, we can pull in the machine data if that's the way you want to use Granular. But what's really cool about this is kind of the last slide. It's the activity feed. So what this has done is really brought what we call operators, the guys out in the field, kind of into the circle of the farm. Because most of the time they're just told, hey, can you go do that, whatever it might be, go plant that field, go harvest that field. But now, it's kind of like a Twitter feed for your farm. So anytime I start a work order, it's going to say, hey, Andy just started harvesting field number 3. And then you can see I can also take pictures in the mobile app. So if there's a wet spot or anything, anybody across the farm can see this data at real time on the mobile app or on the web app. So how this all works, kind of Granular's in the middle there, but you've got your accounting package where we can feed the data into FBS, or if you're running QuickBooks, You've got your agronomy package kind of all feeding in. So everybody that's in play, Granular can kind of be that hub for your operation. So we also have financials in Granular, and that's what it's all about, what we're here for, is really to try to figure out what the cost of production is, field by field. And that's what, we pull in the production expenses, land expenses, and we try to get to, a net profit and net margin in Granular, but we don't do it all. That's why you got to take it to FBS to kind of finish it all off. And then we also have some scenario analysis tools for ROI planning. So this is a financial plan. This is basically just a graph, but what it does, we have a data science team, and what it does is basically telling us all the fields over on the right-hand side are my winners, and all my ones on the left-hand side are the losers. So those are the ones that you want to concentrate on and be like, is there a mistake? Is that field really that poor? Or is it, should we be negotiating rents? What should we be doing there? And then last but not least is this measure, manage, and improve slide, which we have a land cost benchmarking, again, a tool done by our data science team. So what it does, after you pull in all of your expenses and revenue, we line up all of your fields, and you can kind of see a cost per bushel on what each field's doing. So this one actually says it's the best 10% on that little green check mark for the land cost, so it's not costing us as much, but it's also in the worst 20%, which is that red estimation point. So it's putting us in right about the middle for this piece of land. So you can see, like, again, kind of your winners and your losers on maybe you need to negotiate rent again. That's it. We can talk more later.
All right, our next speaker is Eric McAbill.
Okay, we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to talk livestock. And I work for Maximum Ag Technologies. Maximum Ag Technologies is based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And our core product is the Maximus controller. So a livestock controller that allows a farm to help manage their operation from an animal welfare standpoint, for the pigs, the dairy, the poultry, in an environment that is safe because we're responsible for them. But then we can also monitor generators, feed usage, water usage, look at consumption curves, tie all that information back and look at that so that if there's trouble areas that we can identify them versus this is a poor performing group. 6 months later, we're looking at the data. This is real time. I can look at this on the controller, on my computer, on my laptop, or on my iPad, or on my phone. I can control it from that as well. And so I can be out of the office on a weekend or a holiday, right? That's when things break. The ability to help troubleshoot that. So a little background. People say, well, geez, it's a new company. You've only been in the States here since 2012. It's an upstart. You guys can stick it out. Background, the owners of Maximum Solutions in Canada, QMA, started FEBCO back in 1990. FEBCO made all of the relays that were in the radar, the AP, the Valco controllers. They controlled the market with the relays that were in there. They did that until 2008 and then sold FEBCO to GSI. GSI owns AP. And we had a 4-year no-compete clause in the US. QMA continued to develop a modular concept in relays up in Canada, and in 2012, Maximum Ag started here in the States. The controllers are made custom to applications. So if you bought a TC5 controller, pretty standard controller, it's got 2 variables and 3 maybe fixed relays. Maybe you didn't need all those. With the Maximus, we design it to your application. If I don't need variables, if I need 4 of them instead of 2 of them, they're all built within that machine. MaxAg is the
Larry Reed came from AP, so strong industry background in the Midwest in 20-some years. And then here in 2014, there's been a push from a welfare standpoint from consumers out in the grocery stores going to pen gestation. That's better for the pigs. So we have electronic sow feeding that we started in 2014. So can't read this, you'll see it in the handouts or the downloads and stuff. Talks about the different features. So again, a lot of things that you could do on your controller before, this takes it to the next level. You can put in consumption curves, graphs. You can get alarms back when they're below water consumption curves, below feed consumption curves, instead of, again, waiting until the end of the group. This is the screen that's on the Maximus. You'll see it out here in the hallway. They're touch screens. We went icons. We felt that icons were more user-friendly. People were more willing to come to the controller and learn things versus digital readouts and what field am I in and how do I get back out. And so that same screen that's on the controller is also then on your phone, on your computer to control that. And so tomorrow I'll have in my breakout session high-performing barns and talk about some of the things that you'll see. One of the things is a view that we can build for that farm. So in this particular farm, it's a tunnel ventilated building. It's actually 2 rooms. This is the west room. We have 5 tunnel fans on the far right, 36-inch fan in the middle, and then 54-inch fans on the side. And you'll see, when it's live, if the fan is running, it's spinning. You see that. You also see the amp draw on that motor. And so the ability to monitor that, know that if there's an issue, that identify it versus why are the pigs hot, why is the environment poor. I'm getting an alarm when that amp draw gets too hot, too high, or if the motor's not running when it should be, I'm getting an alarm that says, attention, I've got pigs or dairy or poultry to address. The red ones are heaters. Shows me when did the heaters run in the last 24 hours. And so I can go to some of my customers and see that heaters are running because of safety thermostats, when in actuality, obviously they shouldn't be running. We've got 3 temp probes across in the black, so that's from the curtain end to the fan end, and so you can see uniform temperature throughout that barn. So the Maximus controller on the far left is a brain box. Again, that's what you have in the hallway, and then there's 3 auxiliary boxes. A controller can control up to 10 rooms or 100 modules. So the controller can do, say, 10 farrowing rooms or nurseries or finishers. It's expandable. I started maybe with 4. When I add some later on, I can add to that and still work off of the one brain. This is a farm in Illinois that's got obviously quite a few fans. And so again, the ability to monitor all those versus somebody catching an eye to say, oh, that fan's not working. It's going to be after the fact. It's when the damage is done that you notice that, oh, that hasn't been running. We integrate with a lot of the other equipment systems out there, products. So on the left-hand side, chain disc drives, the ability to run chain disc auger systems in barns. We integrate with other companies, APs, and cable bay, and so on. On the right-hand side is some heat map zones or heat lamp zones. We have the ability to replace the brain that's in the heat zone and control it from the Maximus. So you don't have duplication. You have the ability to do that remotely. This kind of ties into some of the data collection. You want it real time. You don't want to have to duplicate it. So Maximus software allows us to capture data, bring it back to the farm, bring it from multiple farms within your system. Can't talk about feed bin scales. To monitor the feed and look at consumption and look at it across my system. helps me from a feed ordering standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, so they don't run out of feed. Is there a problem? The ability to capture data in the breeding herd or in the farrowing house and getting that back into electronic sow feeding so that I'm feeding her the proper diets. This is our electronic sow feeding. Again, if you have an RFID tag, they're able to go into a crate. It identifies her based on her parity, her gestation length, her sow condition, and feeds her accordingly. If I capture that data, she's bred into another group or whatever, I can get that information in real time. A lot of it, industry expertise, on call to be able to log in remotely to help troubleshoot for producers, their operations, so that, again, they're back up online. And a lot of times it's just something simple, a switch or a relay or a setting that gets them back in business. This is spots throughout Canada and the US. Each one of those is a current Maximus controller customer. Just a list of some of the many vendors. Thank you.
Okay, next presenter is Doug Applegate. I just see my wife Kathy handing a note to Norm, and I didn't know what was going to happen here. I didn't, yeah. I hadn't prepared a PowerPoint. Yesterday we kind of blew off everything, and we had to go see the eclipse in person in the total eclipse zone. So we did a lot of driving yesterday. We drove 3 hours the wrong direction to come here. So, but we got to see it. It was awesome, and it's a life experience that I'm really glad we did. So, a little bit about myself. I farmed. I grew up on the farm. My wife Kathy grew up on the farm. I started spraying when I was 14 years old, and so I've always liked farming. I've always liked building things. We've done several things to make the spraying operations easier around our farm. We have two sons that also kind of have fallen into that, where they enjoy building things and enjoy the farm. They both have got their engineering degrees, worked at other places, and decided to come back home and be part of the farm. And so we've expanded, and we've added an engineering and manufacturing company. And so today, this is our homepage on our website. So what we do, we've got our MixMate product, and we do chemical blending. So we automate the record-keeping part of it. And one of the big things about that, about 5 years ago, we started developing about 7 years actually ago. About 5 years ago, we made the determination that we needed to be on the Android platform and to build all custom electronics to make this thing work really well. So at that point, we decided integration was a huge part to be practical and what the farms were going to need in the long run. So we've been on this path for a long time to integrate data. And this product we just launched, started sales this April, and so it's a new product. I wanted to talk a little bit about data integration. We've worked with Ag Gateway for a number of years to help standardize the data. So what's coming from that is there's over 200 companies supporting this movement or organization, I guess, and a bunch of these guys up here are all members of that. So what we've done, we've gone in to work to standardize data formats, standardize like product names and things like that. Standardized data really helps things, and then standardizing formats so it's communicatable between systems is very important. And so that's what this whole project has done. The name for that is currently ADAPT So if you hear of the adapt data format, that is the standardized file format. It's a file format today. It will become an API format down the road. John Deere was a big part of this, so it's good to have a big company there to help move this. Right now, Conservis is probably the leader as far as software companies in this. They've really jumped into it and put both feet in, to get this thing going. There are a number of other companies that are very close to implementing the adapt data framework. So we are one of them that is committed to that. So what we really want to do with our product is we would like to receive a work order from Conservis, CropZilla, all these guys. We want to receive those work orders into our system because it makes it very easy for the operator in the field, because the operator would just select a work order and basically hit go. The mixing system would prompt them to pick up a jug and pour it out. The system will measure the products for them if that's the case. Otherwise, it can be totally automatic, and then the data is automatic. So it automatically captures that data, and we want to return it back into all of these systems, basically without an intermediary. We want it just to pass right back. We want the data to be automatic. So that's one of the fundamental things about our company. We want automated records. We want to automate systems so that when you're out working in the field, you work, but you get the data for free. You know, it just happens. It doesn't take extra effort. One quote that I really like is from Doug Hackney. He says, "When it comes to data, you can't trust the humans." So what happens is we all are very good at what we do. We're very good at keeping our records. We're all very good at doing that. But sooner or later, you miss something. And you got to go back and figure that out. Well, that takes a lot of time. And particularly as operations grow, that becomes more difficult to correct those things. And it takes time. It's very time consuming. And so when you can automatically capture data, it's awesome. I mean, people love the automatic record keeping. So we were just recently visiting a farm that just implemented work orders. So the work order system maybe is a little bit foreign to most farms, but they were really excited about it. And particularly the manager, the farm manager, didn't really think he would like it. He wasn't a computer guy. He was, you know, probably 60 years old, the average farmer age, basically. And anyhow, they were really enjoying it. They liked having the work order system, and they liked to check off, I got that job done, things of that nature. So anyway, another little item about standardized data and Ag Gateway, the ISO standard. So within your machinery, there's messaging on the CAN bus that's common to machines all around the world. When we were part of Ag Gateway, we found some of the messaging that was needed for mixing wasn't present, so those have been added. So just a real basic scenario, what can happen? We've got a grower out in western Kansas. They've got a CropQuest scout. He goes out and scouts the field. They're using SST software. We have not integrated with that SST today. It's on the to-do list. So what would happen is he would put his recommendations in for the chemical application on field. It would come into Intersect, which is our cloud service, and transfer into the mix main. So it's a job or a work order ready to be mixed. That's the same time that work order could go through John Deere Operations Center to their sprayer. So the spray operator would be able to just, and he's kind of a one-man operation and doing 60,000 acres with one sprayer. But he would just have that work order there to select, do his mixing, do his applications. And then at the completion of that, they're using Granular. And the blending records are available through our cloud service, and they're producing reports, and I believe they're exporting them to Granular as a CSV. So we have that option to export CSVs, which Norm has indicated that's something that they would be able to do. I used up my 10 minutes quickly. So we are just here today. We have a trailer out here in the parking lot. We can demo the mixing system at break or later before dinner. We're available if you'd like to see more details. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deb.